What's going on, Detroit Lions fans? Welcome into a Tuesday edition, Detroit Den through and three, talking some Detroit Lions football. If you see this channel, that's what we talk here. Please, 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 we are trying to hit 6,000 subscribers before kickoff against the Rams. We have about 2 weeks left. Help us out. If you're a regular watcher, please hit that subscribe button. Today's episode, I'm going to keep it kind of geared toward what I talked about yesterday. Yesterday, I talked about some players who I thought increased their stocks, who really helped their case. Today, I gotta do the bad thing. I gotta talk about the opposite end. I gotta talk about a couple guys who I think their stock is lowering. It's getting worse and worse. And when I'm looking through the Detroit Lions depth chart, what I'm noticing is I'm trying to see guys who are sticking out to me in a bad way. And I've really only locked on to two names. So when I break down the whole depth chart, and I'm not going to do that on air, but just looking at all these names, and I can say, all right, this guy had a good couple plays here and there. This guy had a nice little moment there. It's a good problem because the majority of our depth chart, we have a lot of great players. And cut week or cut day is about a week from today. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Detroit Lions. First on my list, this is near and dear to my heart. All right, Michigan Wolverine, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Look, not too long ago, I used to be heavy into college football. I followed all the recruiting, all the Nike, the Gatorade camps, the 7-on-7s. I kept tabs on all that. So I am very, very familiar with Donovan Peoples-Jones, 5-star recruit coming out of the city of Detroit, staying home, playing at the University of Michigan, where he didn't exactly thrive like a lot of Michigan fans thought he would, myself included. It wasn't a product of Donovan's athleticism. He kind of just went to Michigan and they're a run heavy team. They had poor quarterback play with Shea Patterson, and it wasn't a great fit for Donovan, but he's a Michigan man. We appreciate all he did. He had a good couple moments. I know some Michigan State fans won't like, the Paul Bunyan pose in the end zone, but it is what it is. He's a Detroit Lion now, and we're hoping that he could help the team. So let's just go back to last year at the trade deadline. And I know myself, a lot of other content creators, we wanted some help on defense and we didn't get it. I think we could all sit down and agree that the Donovan Peoples-Jones trade was a bit of a surprise given our defensive struggles to go out and get a receiver that I don't feel like we needed last year. We had Josh Reynolds on the team. Amon-Ra St. Brown was having an all-pro year. Jamison Williams wasn't being utilized a lot. Sam Laporta was kind of blossoming. The run game was dominant. Nobody really felt like we needed a wide receiver. So it kind of made me scratch my head and wonder, okay, I tried to think long-term. What's the long-term of this trade? Well, Donovan Peoples-Jones was kind of trapped at Cleveland with, again, kind of similar to the Michigan Wolverines, run-heavy team with Nick Chubb, shaky quarterback play. Baker Mayfield wasn't always on fire there, and he never really got a chance to connect with Deshaun Watson with the suspension and all that was going on with him. So Donovan Peoples-Jones, he didn't really get a good shake with Cleveland either. So I thought, all right, if I sit back and I dissect this a little more, how will he improve the Detroit Lions going forward? Again, Lions are still a run-heavy team, and I thought the difference maker would be Jared Goff. I think he would be the best quarterback that Donovan had ever played with. And I'm not trying to make that sound like Jared Goff's like, Joe Montana or anything, but given Donovan's track record with quarterbacks that he's gone through in his college career and his pro career, I could kind of say, hey, maybe Jared Goff's kind of a missing piece. Maybe this Ben Johnson offense will help him develop. Well, getting into everything that's gone in the preseason, and we were expecting Donovan to be somewhere in that wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 range, kind of taking over one of those jobs. Hasn't really happened yet. Isaiah Williams kind of stole at least wide receiver 4. And what's interesting to me and what kind of blossomed this into my mind was yesterday when I was driving around town doing some errands, I was listening to 97.1 The Ticket. And I can't remember if it was the morning guys or the afternoon. I can't remember what time it was exactly, but they were talking about Donovan Peoples-Jones and asking a question of, would he make the team just because of his size? Just because he's the biggest receiver on the depth chart, I believe. I'm not even sure if that's true, but I think that someone said that. I can't give this guy a roster spot just because he's big. I can't give you a roster spot just because he's, I think, 6'3", 6'2", 200 some pounds. I can't just give you a roster spot because of your size. At the end of the day, when I look at what Isaiah Williams is doing, returning punts, returning kicks, being a possession receiver, I can't take a job away from that. He's producing. He's showing out. He's proving that he deserves to be in the NFL. He's been given chances this whole offseason. He's been given a lot of reps. He's getting reps with the third team. And this is a guy that we were projecting to be a starter. And I'm trying to be nice here. I'm trying to be really delicate because Donovan's my guy. He's a Michigan Wolverine. I'm being delicate here, but I'm giving you fair criticism. I'm doing the same thing I would say if he was a Buckeye. I'm not beating around the bush. I'm underwhelmed with what we've gotten in return for Donovan Peoples-Jones. And I'm not talking about the draft pick, but this isn't a kid that we thought was going to be a project like Giovanni Manu or Broderick Martin. This is a kid who had over 1,000 yards one year in Cleveland. Like, he's an NFL ready player. I don't know what the problem is. He's getting the reps. He's getting the opportunity. He's got a great coach in Antoine Randall. I'm not sure what the problem is, guys. The only thing I can think of is he not getting separation? Is he, I don't know. You guys can leave it in the comments and let me know what you think the problem is going on with DPJ and why he's not kind of growing a little bit more at the Detroit Lions. Cause I'm kind of all out of ideas. I've sat and I've thought, and the only thing I can think of is maybe he's not getting separation. Maybe he's, I don't know. I'm at a loss for words when it comes to the reason as to why he's not being more of an impact player. So moving on, that's my top guy. And again, when I went through the depth chart, there was only two names that really stuck out to me. The Donovan Peoples-Jones was number one. He's the biggest one on my list. Number two, and I only have two, and I don't want to say that his stock is necessarily crashing, but it's Nate Sudfeld. And I'll say if anything about his stock, it's just kind of like sell now. Sell now, don't buy, cut your losses, let's move on. And I will say this, I thought Nate Sudfeld played a lot better in that second game. I thought he played very well, not very well. He played well enough against Kansas City. He played better than he did against the New York Giants. And I don't get into quarterback rating or anything like that. I look at the eye test. He moved the ball efficiently, especially late in the second quarter. He had one turnover, one touchdown. He had the same, not stat line, but the same as Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker had one touchdown rushing, and he also had a fumble. So that's kind of a wash if you look at that just from a quarterback's opinion or a quarterback state of mind. Like, you had a turnover, you had a touchdown. Each one of them had a turnover and a touchdown. So I call that a wash. He had time in the pocket. He made one really bad pass on the interception right to the Kansas City Chiefs player who looked like he was playing offense. Other than that, I thought Nate Sudfeld played great, but I feel like the writing's on the wall for Nate. I think Hendon Hooker stole quarterback too, and he's really battling for that emergency quarterback role. So it's really going to come down to Jake Fromm, who we haven't even seen yet, and Nate Sudfeld. And I know a lot of people, again, when I was listening to the radio, a lot of people are still hammering Nate Sudfeld, and I'm not going to die on a sword for him, but I will say he did play better. And if you don't think he did, I'm not sure what to tell you, but this NFL season, it goes week to week. Like, you can have a bad game one week, you can have a great game the next, and people all forget about it. Nate Sudfeld kind of did that. He had a shitty game against the Giants. He bounced back, had a decent game against the Chiefs. Every player in the NFL has ups and downs, whether it's regular season, preseason. I mean, we could talk about Jared Goff. He had a bad stretch last year against the Packers, the Bears, where he was turning the ball over a lot and we lost some games or we didn't look good in games. It happens. How do you bounce back? What's the longevity of the season, not just 2 or 3 games. And I know in preseason, your sample size is really shrunk down. You get less opportunity to bounce back. So I would say right now with what Nate Sudfeld's doing, he's kind of at a wash. One really bad game, one okay-ish decent game. So again, not sure if Nate's going to make the team. I'm not sure if he'll be that emergency quarterback or quarterback 3. I know a lot of people are excited about Hendon Hooker, the hype, seeing it on the field, even with a very limited playbook and what they're allowing him to do. Hendon Hooker, I think, is quarterback 2, and I feel much more comfortable if something were to happen to Jared Goff with Hendon Hooker coming into the game versus Nate Sudfeld. So those are really the only 2 guys that really stood out to me when I was looking through this roster. If there's someone else that you guys have in mind who you don't think has performed up to standard or you're disappointed in, please leave it in the comments, guys. Hit that like button, stick around. I'll be back later with another show.